For my interview, Your Uncle Project, I interviewed my tia Irene, my great-aunt Irene. Her father came over from St. George Island, Azores, to find work. He traveled back and forth between St. George and New York for work from 1924 until 1935 due to World War II. He stayed in San Jose with a family friend. And then how did they arrive?
My father came first as a single man to San Jose by ship, and he came to meet with someone that he had been referred to by his uncle and godfather, John Berzel.
Were there any difficulties during their travels here?
My father never spoke of any difficulties, aside from the fact that he was young and single and traveling alone. But my mother had difficulties when she came over.
Could you describe those difficulties?
So when she was finally able to come over after World War II ended, she had your grandmother, which was about 10 or 11 years old at the time, with her, and then she was also pregnant. And the goal was for her to get to the United States and have the baby in California. But because of the weather, the ship was not able to depart, and they were stuck on the island of Some Gill for quite some time. I'm not sure how many weeks or months it was, but while waiting to be able to disembark, she ended up having the baby on the island of Some Gill. And let me just add that that was not only one difficulty, but the second difficulty was she was now traveling overseas with a child and an infant by herself, not knowing any English.
If it were up to you, would you go back to live there indefinitely?
My mother, through the years, never gave up her Portuguese citizenship and always considered the Azores to be her home. When they retired in the mid-70s, they both returned to the Azores, and we thought that they were going to stay there. They lasted about a year before they returned back to the United States.
And then when growing up in America with your immigrant parents, was it different compared to some of your peers?
As a young child, my social circle was my cousins, my aunts and uncles, and the friends of my family. We grew up on a ranch, and we were raised as if we were living in the Azores. We had chores to do on the ranch. We ate home-cooked food, and if there was anything, we would go to school, but if there was any school activities, we didn't go. You went to school during the day, and then you were done. You didn't go over to other friends' house. But then as we got older into our high school years, then that loosened up a little bit. So I was raised differently than my peers in that I did not have the exposure to the American school life, after-school life, until after I got into high school. Everybody would kid one another, but there was never any bullying or anything like that. We were all friends.
And do you think your parents gave you the life that they wanted you to have when they came over here, more so than in the Azores?
I definitely believe that. My parents here, although we were raised very prudently and we learned to not have to compete with the Joneses and have everything they had, I didn't realize until after my parents had died that they were actually very well off. We were raised very conservatively.
Is it hard for you to express your culture at all in the U.S. compared to how your parents were?
Not at all. I don't think the thing about my parents coming over, and it's Southern California, and so the reason they settled in San Jose was because they had contacts there, and it was other Portuguese people from the island that they were from. And when they moved to the community of Escalon, it was because there was other people from the same island already here, and so they continued to maintain that community until they died. And throughout California, all summer they have Portuguese festas, which are celebrations, and people from all the islands gather together, and they keep in touch with one another. So, and although they kept their culture alive, they didn't expect the Americans to change things for them. They changed to conform to America. And so that I think is different than the way things are today.
Growing up, your first language must have been Portuguese. When transitioning, switching over to English, were there any phrases and such that you think stuck with you the most?
So when we grew up at home, we were always required to speak Portuguese. My mother did not allow us to speak English at home because she did not understand it. The favorite phrases that I still recall to this day are mais fica, which means more for me, bem feito, which means well done, but usually it's said after you've done something ridiculous.
Thank you.